Let's continue the muscles of abdomen. It can be divided into two groups, anterior leader group and posterior group. The anterior leader group is here, including this muscle, this muscle, this muscle, and beneath it, and another one like this direction, these muscles, the four muscle. And then posterior group, including this one and this one. Let's introduce it one by one. The anterior leader group. Anterior leader group, and then this one, the oblique externus abdominis. It's arrived from the posterior, the inferior seventh ribs, and this one, its fiber is to the anterior, and then insertion to the iliac crest and pubic crest and pubic tubercle. This oblique externus abdominis. The oblique internus abdominis is this one. As originated from the later half of the inguinal ligament, all the iliac crest, and then the transverse abdominis originated from the transverse process of the thoracic inferior part of the thoracic vertebrae and the lumbar vertebrae. Its fiber run to the forward, and then these three gradually these three muscles is form aponeurosis. These aponeurosis view each other from the sheath of the rector abdominis, and then this one, the rector abdominis. It's originated from the pubic crest and the pubic symphysis, and then ascending to the leader, to the external surface of the from the fifth to the seventh rib, and then the default process. This is the rector abdominis. This one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, from inferior 7 ribs. And then this one, the oblique externus abdominis, and this one, the internal. And then let's see the thoracolumbar fissure, the iliac crest, and the later half of the inguinal ligament. And then this one, the internal obliquus abdominis. And then this one as the rector abdominis. The rector abdominis, some person, if you do the regular exercise, you will find on the anterior wall of your abdomen, you will find that the 6 or 8 muscles is so stronger, and this one, this 1, 2, 3, 4, the two side is 8, maybe is 6 at the belly. We show it as the rector abdominis. This one, let's see, the oblique externus abdominis is fiber direction in this direction. And then another one, the oblique internus abdominis in this direction. The deep layer, the transverse abdominis in this direction. And commonly, why we only show the right part, because at first, do the operation, sorry, not here, and then this part, about this place, do the operation of the vermiform appendix. And then when we do the operation, must pull down pull the muscles, not only use the knife to cut the muscle directly. Use the hook separate the muscle along the direction. First layer like here, and then you can find this is so thin. I use the thick one. The muscle fiber in the direction, let's say, pour down it, the first layer. And then the second layer, we will this as, let's say, change the colors. This one, the second layer, here, the second layer. And then the third layer, let's say, in the direction, and then in the direction. Otherwise, if we use the knife, cut the muscle fiber directly, and then it forms a scar, then if the scar in the young is okay, but to the older person, and then the muscles become the weak, and then this scar become the loose, and then maybe in this part is from the weak point for the older persons, and then maybe it's from the hernia. So utilize this method to protect the muscle fibers. So we utilize the hook pour the muscles can damage some of the muscle fiber, but can protect the more muscle fibers. And then the posterior rope. Posterior rope including the two muscles. One is the quadrator lumbar. The quadrator lumbar is here. Away from the transverse processes of the lumbar vertebrae and the inferior border of the 12th rib, and then to the lumbar, to the iliac crest. This is lumbar quadrator. The quadrator lumbar. And then the sos major away from the transverse process, and then descending terminated to the lesser trochanter, accompanied with the iliacus, is from the iliopsoas, and this one is the sos major, and then this one, quadratus lumbar, and then this clinical notes to understand is okay, and then this is from that three flat muscles is from that structures. The first one, sheath of the rector abdominis. It means from the sheath of the rector abdominis. And then let's see. Sorry. And then the superior to the acute line. Superior to the acute line, let's see, the external muscles or the external obliques is with each other's. It corresponds with each other's. And then the middle one, the oblique internals. The oblique internals, let's say, is lateral border. The lateral border of the rector abdominis is split to the anterior layer and the posterior layer, and then enclose the rector abdominis and weave each other with the correspondent side or the contralateral side. The last one, the posterior one, as here, let's see, the transverse abdominis, this aponeurosis, this weave each other from this one, and then here is from the linear elbow, This one is have the whole sheath of the rector abdominis, but inferior to the acute line, the two aponeuroses, they all turn to the anterior. So the posterior surface of the rector abdominis directly connected with this layer. This layer is the transverse fissure. Where is the acute line? This acute line is inferior to the umbilical, about the 4 centimeters. And then let's see, this anterior layer, posterior layer, use this flash. The oblique externus abdominis, the oblique internus abdominis, the transverse abdominis, and then the transverse fissure, the extraperitoneal fissure, and the parietal peritoneum. So if we plus the adipose tissue, let's say the adipose tissue or the superficial fissure like here, and then plus the skin like this, you utilize these colors. So when we do the operation of the abdomen, so if we cut it, like use the red color like the cut, so we must passing through the skin, the superficial fissure, the oblique externus abdominis, oblique internus abdominis, the transverse abdominis, transverse fissure, the extraperitoneal fissure, and the parietal peritoneum, passing through these layers. And then remember, these three layers must use the hook. Don't directly cut by your knife, as here. And then this one as the transverse fissure, and here this one, the occipital line. This is umbilical. This is the posterior layer of the sheath of the rector abdominis. The occipital line is here. And then the linear elbow. The linear elbow is view each other by the three flat muscles. They gusset each other. The superior to the umbilical a little bit wide, inferior half a little bit narrow. And then the linear elbow, the superior wide, inferior is narrow. And then the inguinal canal. The inguinal canal, and then this is from the this one is one structure is formed by the external oblique abdominis, the superficial ring, and then this one. This one as the conjoined tendon. Conjoined tendon is from the two muscles. This one, the oblique internus abdominis, and this muscle, the transverse abdominis. And this is the deep ring. This is the superficial ring. And then between them, this potential canal is the inguinal canal. And then the inguinal ligament between the anterior superior iliac spine to the pubic tubercle. This is the inguinal ligament. And then this one, the anterior superior iliac spine, the pubic tubercle, inguinal ligament, the inguinal ligament. And then conjoined tendon is formed these two muscles, oblique internus abdominis, and then the transverse abdominis. The inguinal canal, including the two opening and the four walls. And then here is the deep ring. The deep ring is formed by the transverse fissure. And then about here. This is the superficial ring. And this is formed by the oblique externus abdominis. And then the superficial ring is here, and then here, the superficial ring. And then the four walls, anterior wall, posterior wall, superior wall, and inferior wall. The anterior wall from this one, aponeurosis. This muscle, what? The oblique externus abdominis, posterior wall, it is here, the transverse fissure, and conjoined tendon. And the superior wall, the free border of these two muscles, one and two muscles, the oblique internus and the transverse abdominis, the inferior wall, this ligament. And then this is 4 walls and 2 openings. And here, the superior wall, these 2 muscles. This as the inferior wall. This is from the anterior wall. And then this one is from the posterior wall. And then the structure passing through the canal for the male spermatic cord, for the female round ligament of the uterus, the all as the ilioinguinal nerve, and this one, the round ligament of the uterus, and then these structures is the spermatic cord. And then this part is finished. Please describe the opening and the walls of the inguinal canal.